On today's episode of Out Loud and Laughing,
At the beginning of infancy with a child, you kind of strip yourself away because your needs are no longer yours. It's like that's the priority. And then I feel like now we're past the 3-year mark and we're like kind of rebuilding ourselves back. It's very interesting.
It is interesting, but I mean, it's completely changed it. And at the same time, it hasn't totally changed it. But it's definitely,
What's funny is when you see your kid like emulate you,
Yeah.
or if I see him emulate Steven or do something, I'm like, oh my God, he is the same person I married.
welcome to another episode of Out Loud
And laughing.
Get Ready.
I'm Bryan.
And Jon, two gay cousins having big talks and even bigger laughs. Join us. Let's see what they're up to. It's Out Loud and Laughing. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Out Loud and Laughing. We're really excited to be here today. I'm Jon.
And I'm Bryan.
And boy, do we have a treat for you. We have a treat for ourselves. Our new friends, we'd love to introduce them to you. Steven and Brett, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself. We're so happy you're here today. Thank you.
thanks for hanging with us. Hello, I'm Steven.
I'm Brett.
And we are
The Broadway Husbands. You can check us out on Instagram. If you don't know who we are, we both met and fell in love in New York City working on Broadway for 20-something years. And now share our lives as two dads. We have a 3-year-old son.
to Houston during the pandemic, and we've been here for 4.5 years. And we are currently in the process of moving, and we are moving next week to Orlando, Florida. So it's
Yeah.
great timing.
It's
but
crazy.
When isn't it? Right? I mean, it feels like life is always busy and changing.
Yeah, it's just like, we moved, like most people during the pandemic, sort of because of work and those things just sort of changed. And we've never intentionally expected to end up in Texas. We were loving New York City. I was working in Wicked on Broadway when the shutdown happened, and we thought we'd always return. And here we are moving from one red state to the other. And
But we did go back to New York for 7 months in 2023, and I did the show in New York. So we were there for 7 months, and then we
we were like, you know what, we're good.
you get all the people you have stuff there.
But yeah, we share a lot of that on our Instagram. We have a Substack now, and we're launching our new podcast this summer. It's called From Husbands to Dads.
Yeah, that's such a good segue. And thank you guys for that amazing intro. I have so many questions, and you guys have had such an amazing run so far. So I would love to sort of hear and dive into those things, as well as some of the things that our listeners are also engaged with, which is really talking about the gay parenting journey, and then of course in contrast to myself being sort of the elephant in the room and being single. Newly single and sort of navigating 40s and this whole gay world again now without sort of the same story you guys are running with. So there's just going to be a fun paradigm there. But maybe start, and then also I don't know if you guys if you mentioned it and there was really no space to, but we also sort of share our journey with sobriety as well. So I'd love to sort of hear how you guys got to that, and we can just sort of open it up for the room. And so with that, you guys have your son Maverick. How old is he now?
3. He just turned 3.
I think it says 3 in March.
3 in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 in March.
I can only imagine how much your lives have changed for the better. I'm so curious to hear with the rigorous schedule, like being on the stage and sharing yourselves with sort of that schedule. What does parenting look like for you? And of course, I'm interested to hear that in contrast to Bryan's sort of 9-to-5 world.
Well, I mean, I feel like our parenting schedule and lives, it's very inconsistent. So we're constantly trying to find consistency and regulate a schedule within the inconsistency of the business that we do. Like for instance, when we were in New York and I was doing the show, there was consistency there, even though it wasn't a very long-term inconsistency. So like the schedule was very regimented. So we were able to, plan exactly who is in charge when, and that actually kind of makes it easier age. Whereas like, even I'm gonna just speak for like this past week. We have childcare full 3 days a week with Maverick, and that kind of keeps our schedule in a certain place. And she went out of town, so we didn't have her for a week, and that changes our dynamic as parents. And
Plus,
so,
like our productivity goes down immensely. Like,
and we have to really communicate as to, okay, I'm in charge now. You go do what you need to do. I'm in charge. Like, it's like it's just a constant game and challenge of like, do we actually communicate well? And
but I think in contrast to like a 9 to 5 job, I think it's, I think part of it is our finances are inconsistent too, right? We're freelancers, so we got to go where the work comes, and that is challenging. And then now, of course, our brand is so specific to us being together. So making money requires us to be together, but we also don't want to take away from our child's experience and the attention he needs. So we're constantly struggling to sort of find that balance of like being able to work together, still being in a marriage, and then also co-parenting. And that is definitely like been a learning curve, I think, for us. And I think that the other challenge is that it's constantly changing, even when you're in a show. So when you're in rehearsals, it is a 9 to 5 schedule, basically, right? But then the show goes into tech. But the show then goes into tech rehearsals, which can be 12-hour days. And then once the show opens, you're now working in the evenings. And so you're missing bedtime. And then the show might close. And then you have all the time in the world to be with your kid, like they did with the show. So you have to kind of be in this adventurous spirit and this curious spirit and be willing to go with the flow. And then there's also, I think, for people who don't really get it, like people who don't have an artistic career, I think there's something really beautiful. And this is actually, I wrote a children's book coming out next year that really talks about this, about teaching your child that you don't have to sacrifice doing what you love in order to be a parent. You can do what you love and have a family, and you can do those things. Is it what the world sees a parent doing? No, but like it's 100% possible, and people do it every single day. And what a beautiful thing to teach your child that like whatever you want to do, it's possible, and you can still have a healthy, loving family.
Yeah, I love that. And I relate to it so much. I have a 9 to 5, and it's still a shit show, right? Because even on the days you feel like I got this going, they're going to daycare, your child's sick, or to your point, your childcare goes missing. And it's just, so me and Adam every day just say, it's a new day, let's figure it out, right? Who's doing pickup, who's doing bath time. And while we have a routine, we also have no routine because every day it's just like, let's just get through it and make sure our kids have a good day. So I completely relate to that.
In terms of
Um,
in terms of your day, oh, I'm sorry, Brian. I totally jumped in front of you, and go for it.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, because you're talking about sort of what your day looks like, and then hearing how dynamic the schedules can change for you, for the both of you. That what were the conversations even like on the onset of deciding to grow a family? I mean, there had to have been some great considerations, right, around how things were going to change, how it would impact sort of your careers, and I imagine also there was a lot of joy behind these conversations. I'm not trying to make it sound like doomsday. It's exciting to build a family. I'm just curious, like, everybody here has really established careers. There must be, there must be conversations that surround those things. I'm just curious to know what that was like for you guys.
I honestly I wish I could tell you that we had like conversations about progress within like our career. Or really, I don't know that we thought all those things through for whatever reason. I think when we decided to grow our family, it was like we knew we wanted to do it, and it was all we wanted. Like, and there was nothing else mattered. Um, I wish I could say that I had some forethought of some things like this kind of scheduling and how to make it all work.
No, I think that it wasn't even thinking through the logical part of it. It was we felt like our careers had reached a point where we kind of got everything we needed from it. We were like, I I did 8 Broadway shows, I did the films, I did the TV, and this is it. And like I wanna feel something more, I wanna do something more, I wanna have a bigger purpose. And we just felt this calling to be parents. And it wasn't and as far as career goes, we were just thinking, wow, that's it.
Right, right.
And I think that being a parent felt more impactful and more important and more passionate than our careers were bringing to our lives at that moment. And I think it's very easy to want to just go, well, built this resume and I've had this career. I'm supposed to keep going on this hamster wheel. And I think we were sick of being on the hamster wheel, and we were ready to see what this would bring to our lives. And it's been struggles at times, and it's been incredibly satisfying in a soul centered way. Yes, like could we have stayed in New York and continued to do what we were doing? And one of the things we know is that we could always go back and we could always do that. But I really loved raising a human and being there for that person and giving them a sense of security in the world and helping them feel the things that I didn't receive as a child. And yeah,
Just to add on to that, it's tough to say that if we did go back or we had stayed and kept pursuing the things the way we were pursuing them, that we couldn't have figured out a way to do it the way we want to. But for us, we were just ready to do something different and the space and time to give to our child. So yeah.
I relate to that so much, and I would love to understand a little bit around how your relationship shifted. Because I know when we had kids, like there's a whole new responsibility. Your life has changed, and so inherently your relationship changes. And like me and Adam have gone through hard times, and it was almost like finding each other again in some ways because you're stressed and there's just new complexities. So I would love to understand how have you guys navigated that in your personal relationship?
um, I, I will say it is such an evolution, right? Like you don't really know what's going to come out of you when you have a child, because you almost divert back to your own childhood, right? One of the things I wish people had really explained to me a little bit before having a child is that you're going to relive your own childhood through the eyes of your child.
Mhm.
And I thought we'll talk about this a little later, I think, but I've been sober for 20 years. I've worked with my therapist. I've done all this work on myself. So I'm very clear on what my issues are. It doesn't matter. When you have a child, you're reliving your own traumas and your own stuff, and you get to reprocess it and heal some of your own childhood stuff. But then you're also watching your partner go through their own and reliving their own stuff and stuff that maybe we weren't even aware was still there. And
Right.
so, as far as our relationship goes, it's been a lot of like being able to learn how to say, hey, like that's acting out of a wound. That's not actually you. Our child needs you to work on that wound. I need you to work on that wound, or vice versa, right? Hey, I'm noticing I'm having a reaction here. I'm dysregulated. I need to go regulate myself, or whatever it is. And that takes a lot of responsibility, and it takes a lot of awareness. And honestly, the time with my child can be amazing and wonderful and lighthearted. And then he goes down for a nap, and I'm like thinking through all the trauma I went through as a child. And I have to that's more exhausting. So I think that our relationship changed in a way where we had to really figure out how to put this new hat on of being a parent. It's like you're now adding an additional hat, but you're not morphing, right? You're not like, it's not all of a sudden I just got rid of my marriage hat. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just another hat that you have to constantly be aware that you're putting on, and you have to be really communicative about which hat you're wearing at that moment. And then we have the dynamic of having to work together. So it's like, hey, I'm now a worker hat, or I'm your husband hat, or I'm your friend hat, or I'm your parent hat. Like we have to figure out what those roles are and right. I mean, that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think just early on, I always think back. I mean, I think we were still in the hospital. But we spent 2 nights in the hospital once Maverick was born, and right away we were like fighting over who's changing the diaper. We're both trying to do the same thing at the same time. I wear contacts, and so when I take my contacts out in the middle of the night, like I was struggling because I'm like, I can't see anything, and you have to put your glasses in. Just trying to like communicate. Once we got home and we realized, oh, I'm gonna take care of Maverick from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. Like if he wakes up, right? Like it's on me. I won't till 4 a.m. It's Brett's, right? Like once we were like really clear of like delineating, you're in charge. If he cries, if he needs to be fed, if his diaper needs to be changed. Um, yeah, and I think in the beginning, I mean, honestly, it changes your relationship, and because you don't know how you're learning how to be a parent. I'm learning how to be a parent, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that, and it's taking all of me.
Mm.
So I will say, like, it's just like it's
Yeah.
an evolution, right? I mean,
It's an evolution. And it really is. You do kind of like strip yourself down, and then at the beginning of infancy with a child, you kind of strip yourself away because your needs are no longer yours. It's like that's the priority. And then I feel like now we're past the 3-year mark and we're like kind of rebuilding ourselves back. It's very interesting.
it is interesting, but I mean, it's completely changed it, and at the same time, it hasn't totally changed it. But it's definitely,
What's funny is when you see your kid like emulate you,
yeah,
or if I see him emulate Steven or do something, I'm like, oh my God, he is the same person I married because my son is basically mimicking him.
That's actually a really good jumping off point for the next thing that I wanted to bring up. Thank you guys for that like awesome rundown, by the way. And you said so many things that were meaningful to me, even that were around the level of accountability and awareness that is really helping guide sort of how you continue to evolve as yourselves and how that impacts relationships, whether it be with each other. And I see this, Bryan, I can almost speak for you a little bit in that I have had, long periods of time staying with Adam and Bryan and the kids when I get to go up there and visit them as Uncle John. But, all it's to say is they are little mirrors of us and that we're able to, see ourselves almost it's a service to us, right? And so through that it's almost like, well, now you have this new opportunity to like remold and reshape this next generation based off of the things that really didn't like resonate with you as a child and sort of the ways that we needed to be loved. And these are some of the things that I've learned on my journey as well. So speaking to that, I'm just curious, like, how is doing the work, right? Figuring yourself out. There's a lot of accountability in the room right here. I mean, just the way that you guys showed up just now is really really brilliant. But and I'm gonna run for one more second here because I can say that I have seen from other friends who will say that they are still sort of in their trauma or unaware to some degree, right? How that sort of impacts the way that they communicate with their children, the way that their behaviors manifest into like what I would say generationally damaging parenting styles where you're just sort of like repeating patterns, right? How is this awareness, how is this work that you've done, and Bryan, I want to turn it back over to you once Stephen and Brett have a chance to answer, how is this really like unlocked your parental styling? Because this has to be something that allows you a little bit more grace, freedom, and movement to parent. I'm just curious to, you have to have perspective. I'm interested.
well, I think being gay or a same-sex couple, a same-sex married couple, and now a same-sex married couple with a child, there are no rules or
Tradition.
traditions or things that are really set up for us to really fall into and feel like we have to do certain things. So I think it, in a way, just being who we are, like naturally, allows us a little bit of freedom. I'm not saying we don't feel the pressures of everyday societal norms because everybody feels it. I think, but I think it was really a chance. I think having a child in our eyes was always a chance for us to be better parents. Not that we have terrible parents, but just to parent in a better way, to figure out how we could help our son the best that we can and be the best version of ourselves. And I think, um, because we've been trying to be the best or at least better versions of ourselves all the time, that allows for us to try and be good parents. And I think that, I think honestly, it comes from like learning and then, and making mistakes and just always repairing, right? The repair is the most important part if something is ruptured. And it's not easy. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I like for me personally, you know, we have a lot there. And
Three
you know,
nature.
we- that's a very true statement. A teenager is like a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he is demanding. He, will like sometimes hit me. And sometimes I am not always in the most optimal emotional to receive those things. And even though I know intellectually that he is 3 and he does not know what he's doing, um, sometimes it hurts my feelings a lot. And so it's really hard. Like it's like this really, really hard thing. Well, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but
Well,
I think
yeah. I mean, I think you are essentially,
yeah.
but I think that the challenging thing, and this is, I mean, and maybe this is because we've been sober. I don't really know, but I came in with expectations, this like sort of assumptions. Um, One of the big assumptions I had is that I would just assumed most gay parents are choosing to consciously raise a child in this world. That's not true. Like some people just have the privilege and the money to do it, and there's not a lot of like intentionality behind it. Just like I would say a majority of straight people can just get pregnant, and that's beautiful and good for you. But there's lack to me. It's like we know science improves every day. We learn more about brain plasticity and understanding what an infant and the child development and emotional development and trauma, and we learn so much through psychology, and like you have access to all of this information on the internet. And I just assumed most parents are researching this stuff. You're reading a book about being a better parent, and actually most people are just repeating what they experienced as a child because their parents are free childcare. And so it's just, oh, and I turned out fine, right? And in my brain, it's like I came in thinking I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat what I experienced. I don't know better, and I think because again, going back to sobriety, if I rested on my laurels, like I would be a terrible parent. I would just be like acting out of all of my emotions. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create a child that was completely independent, not feeling like he was beholden to me or my property in any way. He is already 100% a human being born into this world. And my job is to keep him secure, safe, so that he can be as authentic as possible. And I don't know how to do that because I didn't have that experience. So I need to read books. I need to get support. I need to find information. I need to, question things when they happen if it doesn't feel right and live with my own gut instincts. And unfortunately, it's hard because that is not the majority. That is not the standard as to which our culture raises their children. So we're already feeling othered as a gay family, and then you add this level of wanting to consciously parent our child and create an emotionally healthy child, and then oftentimes we feel very othered there too. And it's okay because we're kind of used to it, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because I wouldn't want to parent any other way. And it's hard for me sometimes to not judge parents. It's like I have to let go of that. It's like every person is doing the best they can with the tools they have. But for us, or at least I can speak for me, I just really did not want to rest on my laurels when it came to raising this child.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. And that's definitely the same in our household, and it resonates along with the three-nager because three has been our hardest year with our little guy. So it's hard to sometimes separate that they are three versus hurting your feelings. It happens all the time in our household too. So
Yeah.
that hit.
The
What's interesting about parenting though is, it becomes a new passion because it's just now a huge part of you. And I would love to, like, while we kind of think through like wrapping up the parenting conversation, like you have a passion now for parenting, but you guys obviously have built this huge passion for Broadway and theater. And how have you introduced Maverick to theater and Broadway? How have you brought those two things kind of together? Because I'm sure it's hard not to want Maverick to be in love with the theater like you two, right? So how have you navigated that, and have you introduced him in any interesting ways?
I mean, I think we're constantly doing it without even knowing it. From so we sing to him at bedtime to like just yesterday, I was in the car. Well, I was in the car with him, and he's always like he's on this kick where he'll be like, "Song, play song," and I'm like, and instead of just like putting anything on, I always just like, "What would you like to hear?" Because like sometimes he can actually think of something in specific. He's like, "I don't want to put something on," and then he's like, "No, not this. No, not this." I'm like, what would you like to hear? And then he couldn't, he's like, I not know. I not know. And I was like, okay, well, shut up. And I put on things late mid, like the original Breivik has like, you know, because like I know that I at night sometimes, just because I know all of the words to on my own. And sometimes when you're like super tired, like I can't think of words to songs that save my life. And for whatever reason, on my own, no problem, just top to bottom, like I know the words. And I knew I get to it before too. So I was like, let's listen to the mid. So we like started
so depressing.
and then I was for another song that I sing to recent.
Nothing says good night like on my own. You know what I mean?
Right. Cool. Nope. It's something you can still lay in my lap and he looks at the like just stares at my mom.
Like at the name looking at Mario's.
Oh, I can see
And
you
I'm
get your
also
drama, Stephen.
But it's I think that there's like, we'd have no intentionality of him being an actor. In fact, I'm like, please gotta be a doctor or a lawyer.
Honestly.
But it's in our DNA, like
we're always dancing.
he's seen us perform. So, and like I said, like children mimic you. So he dances, he does ballet class, he wants ballet shoes because he's seen Steven dance. He wants, to talk about the shows that he's seen me in and me to sing the songs from the shows he's seen me in. And he remembers things that he's seen us on stage doing, even when he was, one. And he'll talk about them. And so it's like, and he's been on a Broadway stage already at like,
Came to New York at a big show early in the rehearsal process, brought him on my break, and he came into the studio and John Bulls was cool. And Stephen Sherman came and like
Tom Kander, who wrote New York, New York, the
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
said, "Welcome to New York, Maverick."
I'll get a video of it and I'm just like crying.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, there's like, I think
It's very graceful. Like he loves to spin on like that little merry-go-round that spins really fast. And I have this video of him the other day. He was like doing like an arabesque one.
yeah.
I sent it to my mom.
But then at the same time, he'll throw a basketball or he'll kick a soccer ball. So who knows, But it's definitely in our DNA, and I definitely think he's gonna grow up. He has a very very much appreciation for music. He wants to play. He has a guitar and a piano and a harmonica and a ukulele, and he loves to play them. Um, and it's very interesting too because that's not what I was raised on, right? But I still loved it, and that was what I wanted to do. And my parents, who are super conservative here in Texas, will come over, and my dad is just like, "What's happening?" And Mavericks and ballet shoes, and
He came over recently.
and it's so
Maverick saw dance and so
he was dancing. My dad was just like, "What's happening?" And I was like, "This is how you raise a kid." He was authentic. Yeah, this is it.
That part. That part. Oh, guys, I have to say this has been an excellent, it made me feel good. I sure hope it did the same for you guys. There's a few key takeaways that really just stood out to me. I mean, anybody uh, who's sort of listened back to this and doesn't think that you guys are doing an absolutely exceptional job because of the work that you've done on yourselves, they'd be mistaking themselves. Maverick sounds like one very, very lucky gentleman based off of meeting you
Oh,
guys for today. Um, and, again, I don't come from the perspective of a parent, but, I do have the gay uncle side of myself. And so when I do get to dive into that role, um, I get to check out of the three major stages, but they're real for me too, and they hurt my feelings too. So when you said that,
cool.
that was deep and it was real. And I'm like, I've never heard
Mm.
another parent say that a kid actually hurt their feelings. So for you to say that, kudos and huge. And then the last thing is, at the very beginning, we talked about the importance of, balance and being open to change. And, on this gay hamster wheel of life, which actually sounds like a tab I need to close on my browser right now, but I digress. No, I'm just kidding. That we all kind of stay grounded. We stay in the moment. We know that what we get done today is what we get done today. And then together we just laugh off all the shit that just doesn't make sense, because we're just humans and we're all doing our best regardless of where your journey is and what your journey looks like. You just got to be better today. And if it's not for yourself, it's for your kids. And if it's not for your kids, it's for your community.
Sure.
Bryan, you want to send us home?
No, I mean, this was such a great conversation, guys. We appreciate you guys just being open and honest, and we hope you guys come back. Once you're settled in Orlando, which we're so excited for you. As we have mentioned, we are both from Florida, so we understand the beauty of Orlando, so we support it 100%.
I know I handed it
Thank
over.
you.
I know I handed it over to you, Bryan, but I have to say there's one more person, Brett and Steven, who I think is going to be very excited to hear about your move to Orlando. Do you guys remember Chip Abbott?
Of course.
Chip Abbott's a good friend of mine, and he just
Oh,
moved from New York to Tampa, so he's an hour away. We should plan a Disney day.
oh my God, please.
Yes.
What's he doing in Tampa?
For all of our listeners, we have really cool friends. No, I'm just kidding. Chip
Tip is
Abbott,
awesome.
was a choreographer, dancer, Broadway performer for a long time. I think, was it you, Brett? You guys actually both worked with him, I think.
Yeah, I worked for him at Radio City, and then they did On the Town together.
Such a small world, but he has stepped out of Broadway right now, and he is doing global talent scouting with cruise lines right now. And I will keep his sort of world a little contained there by not getting.
Great.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So when I was sharing with him that you guys were coming on, and he's like, "Well, I worked with Brett here, and I worked with Steven." I'm like, "Of course."
Yeah.
Steven. I was like,
Yeah, I love it. If anyone calls me and says let's do a Disney day, I'm gonna be like, okay, you're right there.
Yeah,
See you there.
and you should listen to our Disney podcast. I am a pro. So no, I'm just kidding.
He is.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.